Welcome to Country Fried Rock, where we have conversations with songwriters for real music lovers who enjoy context and musical connection. We are Country Fried Rock. My guest today on Country Fried Rock is Ben Glover, a songwriter who splits his time between his native Ireland and Nashville, and whom we first heard about a little bit in our conversations with Mary Gauthier and Gretchen Peters, noted songwriters with whom he writes. Well, Glover has a brand new record called Atlantic that talks about how his Irish background influences his American songwriting and his time in Nashville amplifies his Irish background. It's a great combination across both sides of the Atlantic. Today, with Ben Glover on Country Fried Rock. My guest today on Country Fried Rock is Ben Glover with a brand new album called Atlantic. Welcome.
Sloane, thanks very much for having me.
Normally, I jump right in asking all about the record, but in this case, I have to ask you about your Twitter profile picture. Do you ride Triumph motorcycles by chance?
I don't. I'm a big Bob Dylan fan. Dylan had a T-shirt that was very similar to that Triumph T-shirt on his Highway 61 Revisited album back in the 60s. So, unfortunately, I'm just trying to be cooler than what I actually am in that photo. I would love to say that I ride a Triumph, but I just kind of stole the fashion idea off Dylan.
Your name for our radio program originally came up, and I can't remember if it was when I was talking with Mary Gauthier or Gretchen Peters. Must have been with Mary Gauthier, nonetheless. But you all have worked together quite a bit over the years.
Yes, we have. I met Mary for the first time 7 years ago. I was in Nashville recording a record, and Mary Gauthier, who I'm sure you know plays harmonica with Rory Nelson, introduced Mary and I, and we just hit it off right away. We became really good friends, and then that turned into a musical collaboration. And about 4 years ago, Mary asked me to join her on her European tour. So I went on the road with her, opened the shows, and then that grew into us writing together. So for about 4 years or so now, we've been writing regularly together, and we also continue to tour together. I've toured 4 times with Mary now in Europe, and I was actually, this morning, I was over talking to her. We're planning our next tour. We're going back to Europe, and I'm delighted to say that I'll be joining Mary again. So she's wonderful. I mean, Mary, aside from being one of my best friends, she is a musical hero of mine. I just think she's an amazing artist. For me to have been able to collaborate with her over the past number of years, I just learned so much from her. You know, for me, she's one of the current songwriting masters, and it's been an absolute revelation to be able to write songs and to tour with her.
What I particularly noticed, and I'm really excited for listeners to hear, one of the songs that you all have co-written is on her new record as well as on your upcoming album.
That's right. That song is called Oh Soul. It was a song that developed over the course of about 6 months. It was one of those songs that started out as one thing, and it wasn't fully clear to us, and then we sat with it, and over the course of a few months, it kind of showed itself to us, and it came about from a trip that I made down to Greenwood in the Delta in Mississippi. I'm a big Robert Johnson fan. I headed down to Greenwood to find Robert Johnson's grave, and it was kind of one of these romantic pilgrimages that I like to go on when I'm in the States. When I came back to Nashville, Mary and I were talking about Robert Johnson and about the whole myth that goes along with Robert, you know, about selling your soul at the crossroads, and we both became quite fascinated about that story and about that myth, and we just started examining, is it possible to sell one's soul? If it is, what are the consequences? And so the song Oh Soul came out of that. It's basically, it's our considering of those themes, but it's also a personal story for us because we've both been through experiences in the past few years where we've made choices that have had consequences, and it's a very personal song to us as well as being wrapped up in the Robert Johnson story. It's exciting that 2 versions of the song are going to be released pretty soon after one another. Mary's version's fantastic. I'm sure you know it. It's got Darrell Scott on it. It's got the McCreary sisters, and she kind of treats it nearly in an Appalachian fashion, whereas the version of my album, a little different, a little bit more, a little looser, swings a little more, but I think both versions still ram home the point of the song, and it's I'm just very grateful to have written that song. It's one of the favourite ones I've come up with, Mary. And it's a song that goes over really well live. It's a simple melody. I think it's one of those melodies that seems very familiar to you, And that's good when you're playing in front of a live audience, because sometimes they feel as if they've maybe heard it before. And I don't know how many occasions I've played that song, and by the last chorus, the whole room's singing along. So everybody must be able to empathise with the idea of selling your soul. So I'm proud of that one.
I'm Sloane Spencer. This is Country Fried Rock.
Hi, this is Ben Glover on Country Fried Rock.
You mentioned something that I hadn't thought of in terms of the word pilgrimage before. I go on what I call music adventures, and that is seeking the source of a lyric or the source of a musician or something comparable to your trip to Robert Johnson's grave. Is that something that you try to keep in your life, continuing to look for those sort of things?
Absolutely, Sloane. That is very important to me. I like to call them pilgrimages because there's something almost religious, almost spiritual about them for me. Probably I want to go and get as close to the source of these great songs, these great artists who have touched me profoundly. I mean, even in Ireland, there's places that I go to. I'm a big fan of W.B. Yeats's poetry, and every year I try to get to Yeats's grave in Sligo. And then when I'm over in the States, when I'm based here in Nashville, I'm so lucky because there's so many wonderful pilgrimage sites in the south. A few of the ones I've been on, I've been to Johnny Cash's home in Dallas, Arkansas. And that was mind-blowing. That was just 5 years ago. And I think since then, the Arkansas University, or one of the colleges down there, has taken the house over and refurbished it. But I was lucky enough to see it in kind of its run-down state. And the old gent who lived in it at the time, he took me in to the house. And the place was falling down, but it was just amazing to walk on the same floorboards that Cash walked on as a kid. And my imagination was just running wild, especially for an Irish guy. Arkansas was so exotic to me. That might sound funny to some of your listeners, but for somebody from Northern Ireland, Arkansas and Mississippi are these exotic places. And so, yeah, to go on those pilgrimages, it's vital. It's one of the things that fires me up as an artist. It's one of the things that if I feel that I can touch the things that inspired my heroes, or maybe some of that fire, some of that creative energy might feed into me. So it's vitally important. Those trips are vitally important for me.
You're sharing time between Ireland and Nashville. And please clarify for me, and this is my own absolute lack of knowledge, what is proper terminology now for where you are from?
Well, I'm from Northern Ireland. Technically, there's still two states in Ireland. There's Northern Ireland, the capital of which is Belfast, and then there's the Republic of Ireland, the capital of which is Dublin. Northern Ireland is still politically connected to the UK, but it's such a small country. To drive from the top of Ireland to the south of Ireland, the whole country, it takes about 5 hours. Yeah, it's tiny. We do have a border running through it, although the border is invisible now. I mean, if you drove from Northern Ireland to the south of Ireland, it's like crossing a state line here in the States. It's like going from Tennessee to Kentucky. You're there and you don't know. Thankfully, 20, 30 years ago when there actually was a border and there was army there, it was a very different thing. But
right.
But I'm from the north. I'm from a little village 30 miles north of Belfast. It's right on the coast. It's a village of about 800 people, and I grew up there, and it's beautiful. It's kind of, I don't want to romanticize it, but it is kind of your quintessential Irish village. There's a little harbour, there's mountains, you look right out on the sea, and it's beautiful. It's a really, really special place to come from.
And it makes sense of why you would want to keep homes in both places.
Yeah, I love both places. I love Ireland. I think it's true, where you come from, your original home is always going to be your home. But so I feel very close to Ireland and my Irish roots, and that will never change. And I still plan to have a base in Ireland. But I love Nashville. I love America, and I'm very lucky that I kind of have one foot on either side of the Atlantic. So I'm blessed in that I can kind of bounce back and forth. It works very well for me.
And it makes sense then that of course that's the title of the record, but also that whole sense of place is a huge part of Southern identity.
Absolutely. There's a lot of proud Southerners around here. So there is. I think that's one of the reasons why I felt so much at home in the South. The people here in the South, and I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time outside of the South in the States, so I'm just speaking from my own experience, but the people here in the South are proud. They're proud of where they come from. They know they have a very strong history, and that history is both there's both darkness and light in that history, but yet they still embrace it. And for me, it's very similar to Ireland. Ireland has such a strong and forceful history, but yet there's the dark and the light. And that sense of place, I think, is essential to those people who were born and reared in the South, and us who were born and reared in Ireland. And I do feel that that's one of the reasons why I can feel at home in both places. The pace of life in the South is slow. It's a lot more laid back than a lot of places, and it's the same in Ireland. So there's a lot of similarities. We might be 7,000 miles apart, but the South and Ireland have a lot of similarities in my mind.
You've had all this time in Nashville, yet you chose not to record there.
Oddly, I had never recorded an album in Ireland before. This is my 5th album. My previous 4 records were all recorded here in Nashville. So, now was the time to go back home to Ireland and make this record. I think that was it was very much a personal decision. I kind of, in looking back, I feel that when I came to the States, I was just learning so much. I was learning so much about songwriting, about recording, and I kind of wanted to go back home now and put myself in a very personal surrounding and kind of make a record and bring all together all the skills that I had learned over the past few years. And I also wanted to get out of the recording studio. When you record in a studio, there's a context. You walk in knowing that how things are going to work. And I wanted to just dismantle any comfort zone that I had in the recording process. And I thought, well, the only way to do that was to get out of the studio and get into a house. So basically, we went home to Ireland and we set a house that my family had owned for 40 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I mean, in that living room is where I learned to play music. When I was 12 or 13, I with so many kind of jams there and sessions, and it was the most personal space that I could make a record in, and that was all part of the concept for this record. I wanted to get back to my core personally, as close to my source as possible. So we took it out of the studio and we went home to Ireland in the living room, and we sat in a circle for about 10 days and we just made this record live. There's a couple of overdubs, but for the most part it's just a live record. They came down to visit us one of the weekends when we were recording, and my mother nearly had a heart attack when she walked in. When she walked into the room, her little cozy sitting room had been monstrously transformed into this recording studio. But they were very generous with their house. They just kind of closed their eyes to it. But it's a very different space to what it was then, and I don't think they were too impressed about the amount of empty Bushmills whiskey bottles that were lying around either. I think that caused a little bit of concern, but once they heard the record, I think they said okay, we were okay with it.
I'm Sloane Spencer. This is Country Fried Rock.
Hi, this is Ben Glover, and I'm hoping you can come visit me on my website, which is www.benglover.co.uk.
The people who were helping you with the recording were also people with whom you're familiar.
Yes, my producer is a guy called Nielsen Hubbard, and Nielsen is based in Nashville. We've made 3 records together, so over the course of the past 4 years, he and I have just worked together, and I love working with Nielsen. I love what he's able to bring out of me in the recording process, and I wanted him once again to be at the helm of this record, but I also wanted to bring him out of his comfort zone. He's actually a Mississippi guy, although he lives in Nashville, but I like the idea of transferring him from his familiar surroundings into another country where once again he was out of his comfort zone. So we had Nielsen Hubbard, and then we had a guitar player from Nashville, Chris Donegan, who I've played with and worked with for the past few years. And to counterbalance that, I then brought 2 of my closest friends from Ireland, who are both musicians, 2 guys who I grew up playing music with in Ireland. And my concept for that was I wanted to bring the musicians who I started out playing music with at home together with the Nashville musicians who I've been using over the past couple of years. So the concept was bringing my 2 musical worlds together, and it was great. It was really, and not everybody knew each other at the start, but after 3 or 4 hours playing together, everybody got on fantastically well, and I felt we made this lovely collaboration of those 2 worlds.
What kind of music did you start out playing before you came to the States?
Well, when I grew up playing, when I started out playing music at home, it was in the local bars, in the local pubs, playing Irish traditional music. So it was the reels and the jigs, and I would have played acoustic guitar backing those traditional musicians. So kind of my earliest musical experiences were very much in Irish traditional world. But then, as I was 15, 16, I discovered Bob Dylan. And what happens is, as you well know, I'm sure, if you discover Bob Dylan when you're 15 or 16, he can have a profound effect on you. And and he even makes you wear the same T-shirt that he wore in his album cover. So I was a massive Dylan fan. I was very drawn to American singer-songwriters from when I was about 15 or 16. I also listened to an awful lot of Hank Williams when I was a teenager, a lot of Johnny Cash, a lot of Willie Nelson. And I think that was because my father listened to a lot of those country artists. When that music's playing in the house, you can't help but be influenced by those sounds. Even though I was growing up on the north coast of Ireland, my head and my heart and my imagination were still been formed by Johnny Cash and Hank Williams and Dylan. So it was, looking back, it was a real early musical kind of experiences were a melting pot of Americana, American singer-songwriters, but also Celtic and Irish traditional music.
I like hearing about your method when you were recording of keeping familiar folks, but in unfamiliar circumstances in order to make it happen. So the songs then were new to the people who were playing with you?
Yes, they were. We hardly did any pre-production. I had let the guys hear the songs. I would have sent them work tapes of the songs nearly a month in advance, but there was no rehearsals, and that was the way I wanted it. I wanted us just to be sitting in the circle, and what happened was, we ran through the song, and then we just pressed record, and the version that ended up in the album was usually the second or third version of the song, second or third time we'd ever played the song together, because I wanted the songs and the recordings to still sound raw and not overplayed, not overproduced, and I wanted the guys who were playing with me still to kind of be on edge slightly. So there was very little pre-production and not a lot of familiarity with the songs for the players. For me, now I had been touring those songs for 6 or 8 months, so I knew the songs inside out. I had a very strong sense of the song, but when the singer and the lead guy has that strong sense of the song, then it's easier for the players around him to pick up on that. And I think that was the case in during the session.
I'm Sloane Spencer. This is Country Fried Rock.
Hi, this is Ben Glover, and you can pick up a copy of my new record, Atlantic, on all the usual stores online, including iTunes, and also you can visit Amazon. You can also pick up your copies by visiting my website directly, and that is www.benglover.co.uk.
Well, so you said at the beginning of our conversation that you and Mary Gauthier are going to be doing quite an extensive European tour this fall. What other tour is on tap that you can share with us?
The plan is to hit the road in the States early next year. To date, I haven't done a lot of touring in the US, and I want that to change as soon as possible. Usually my time in the US has been spent co-writing and recording, but now with the new Atlantic record, I want to get out and hit the road and play as many dates in the States as possible. So we're already looking at plans for tours here in the States early next year. Until then, though, it's all going to be European. Over the next few months, it's going to be busy over there. We're hitting Ireland, Scotland, England, Italy, Norway, and Holland. It's going to be pretty extensive. But next year, 2015, I'm hoping is the year for me getting on the road in the US.
You mentioned a little bit that most of your time in the States is spent co-writing and stuff. And we do not want to leave out that you also write with one of our favorite people, Gretchen Peters.
Yes, I'm so proud to be writing with Gretchen. I'm honoured. I think honoured is more of a word than proud. Gretchen she's just a fantastic writer. She can tap into stuff that not a lot of other people can. She's like a medicine woman. She has the mojo. She's fantastic. And that connection came about. She asked me to tour with her in the UK last year. So I opened 3 tours for Gretchen in 2013, and our friendship just grew. And she asked if we wanted to write together, and we ended up writing 2 songs for my new record. And I'm also delighted to say that we wrote 4 songs for Gretchen's new record, which is coming out next year.
Yay!
So I think that's actually a bigger thrill for me to have a couple of the songs that Gretchen and I wrote on her record. Gretchen is amazing. Once again, like Mary, she's just such a fantastic teacher as well. I mean, writing with her, I learned so much. She's a wonderful artist and a wonderful human being, and I'm so honored to have her as a friend and a co-collaborator.
That is beautiful. And I have to say, my connection to Gretchen Peters was through YouTube, basically. I am friends with people who do an online music festival every March called Couch by Couch West.
Yes.
She contributed a video while she was on tour in the UK. And
that's right.
We were like, holy cow, that's Gretchen Peters.
Yeah, so we couldn't believe that Gretchen submitted a video.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually she did that when I was on tour with her in 2013, we actually did a video for Couch by Couch West as well. We did a version of Graham Parsons' Return of the Grievous Angel.
Yes.
So that was, we did that right outside, I think it was in Birmingham or somewhere in England. We stopped to do the intro to the video. We actually stopped at Stonehenge. That's funny, but Gretchen raved about Couch by Couch West. She was so excited when that time of the year came around again because she wanted to do another video. So it was nice to be part of that with her as well.
When it rolls around again, put it in your calendar or something. Obviously, we have to have one from you.
Absolutely. I'll be on it. I'll be on the case in 2015.
That'll be fabulous. Ben Glover, safe travels, and thank you so much for your time.
Sloane, thank you so much. It's been an absolute privilege to be on Country Fried Rock.
My pleasure. Be well.
Okay, thanks, Sloane.
Bye-bye. Country Fried Rock, music uncovered. This week's instrumental is Gilbert Takes the Wheel from Guadalcanal Diary and their album, Walking in the Shadow of the Big Man. You can subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes. Just search Country Fried Rock. Our Country Fried Rock stinger is from Steve Soto and the Twisted Hearts. Country Fried Rock is a partnership with the nonprofit Florence Regional Arts Alliance. Your donations to this program are tax-deductible to the extent you are eligible under U.S. law. Country Fried Rock radio programs are distributed to public radio through the Public Radio Exchange, prx.org. Copyright 2014 by Lilypad Productions. All rights reserved.
Ever he been helping us some country fried